Hey guys, let's talk about negative thoughts. So I want to dig into that stinkin thinkin that we all are capable of getting into pretty easily. So I want to talk about where the stinkin thinkin comes from, where those negative thoughts come from, why they play on repeat in our minds, and how we can overcome them. So I feel like in being a psychologist for over 20 years, I've noticed that once people understand where their behavior or their thinking comes from, they're much more inclined to change it. So if they can understand where behavior comes from, where their choices, their thoughts, that's coming from, they feel like they have more control over it. They feel less out of control, or some people use the word less crazy, even though I hate that word. So it's one of those things where you have to understand where you come from, and then you're more likely to change it. So it's kind of like when you are talking to a toddler and you're trying to reason with them. Once they reach that age where you can reason with them, then it's much easier to get them to comply with behavior, because you can reason with them and tell them why you want them to behave that way, basically. So I want to talk about overcoming negative thoughts. Where do the thoughts come from, and how do we overcome them? So let's jump in. First of all, negative thoughts are a natural part of the human experience. Most of our thoughts are negative and repetitive. Just human nature. Most of our thoughts are negative and repetitive. The other thing to know is that it takes about 5 positive thoughts to undo or overcome 1 negative thought. So it's a 5-to-1 ratio. That's not very friendly. The brain is built to focus on the negatives. And it's in a way that, it's not the brain's fault, so to speak, because it's trying to protect us. So it is always on alert, constantly scanning the environment for danger or risk or things like that. And so it's programmed to pay attention to the negatives as a way to preserve your life, your sanity, your happiness, what have you. So it's kind of counterintuitive, but most of our thoughts are negative and repetitive. The other thing to know is that children learn what they live. So many of you may be familiar with the nature versus nurture argument. So for those of you who aren't, the Reader's Digest version is this. So nature is what you were given, what you were born with, the DNA you inherited through no fault or ask of your own. Nurture is how you're raised, what your upbringing looks like, how your family of origin treated you, what your life experiences have been. So that's nature versus nurture. And when we look at human development, there are plenty of people who say nature is heavier, others say nurture is heavier. I say it's both. Because I've seen people who inherit, for example, you guys know my specialty is BPD, borderline personality disorder. So I've seen people who have fine childhoods, but there's BPD in the family, and they seem to have inherited that sort of information processing from someone in their lineage. Other people, they have these very tumultuous or tragic or traumatic childhoods, and they come out of that with this idea of, or these challenges with information processing. You guys have heard me say before that BPD, in my opinion, is an information processing disorder. Yes, it's a personality disorder by nature, but it's an information processing disorder. And so information comes in, it's registered and processed in a certain way, and then that generates that generates feelings and behaviors, and that's not always terrific because of the way we process information. So nature versus nurture, all of that to say, children learn what they live. So what you grow up with is what you absorb. It's what you come to take on. It's what you believe. Now, the other thing, so we talked about most of our thoughts are negative and repetitive. There are nature contributions, nurture contributions. Children learn what they live. Most of our thoughts are negative, repetitive, takes five positive thoughts to overcome 1 negative thought. So the other thing is being mindful of the way that your brain processes information. So before the age of 6, we're in a brainwave state known as theta. So there are different brainwave states, delta, theta, etc. And before the age of 6, we're in a brainwave state of theta. Now, what's unique about theta is that it's the state of mind that we're in when we are meditating or hypnotized. What does that mean? Well, it means that we're in a brainwave state that makes us very influenceable, very malleable, very impressionable. We're more likely to believe what we're told if we're in a theta brainwave state. So that's a problem when you're exposed to a lot of negative things, or if you have a challenging upbringing or traumatic experiences or what have you. So those things make a big impression and they kind of stick with us. So these are all the ways that we can get to stinkin thinkin, which again is more common than it isn't. The trick is overcoming it. So I want to hear from you guys what strategies you've used to overcome your negative thinking. What do you find works best for you in terms of when a negative thought comes in, what do you do with it? Anybody have any success with their negative thoughts and how they morph those into something that's more positive or at least neutral, or they put it out of their mind entirely? Anybody have any comments about how they have successfully or are working on successfully navigating negative thoughts? Anyone have any success with that? So chime in if you have some ideas on how to overcome negative thoughts. I'll start talking about some of what I teach in my course. So the information I'm going to share with you comes from a $14 course that I have over on the psychoeducationacademy.com. Super inexpensive course. I walk through all different types of negative automatic thoughts, and then we go into strategies that you can use to diffuse each one of those. And then I give you 5 strategies to keep in mind, put it in your notes app, write it in a card, put it in your wallet, whatever. But 5 strategies to keep in mind to dispute any negative thought that crosses your mind. So $14, thepsychoeducationacademy.com. You can find the link in my bio. You can find the information if you just search my name online. So the Overcoming Negative Thoughts is what that course is called. So one of the strategies that I love the most is what I call BYOF, which stands for Be Your Own Friend. So when a negative thought comes into your mind, let's say it's a thought that you have that you just can't do XYZ, or you can't accomplish ABC, or you're not going to do well on a test, or you're going to bomb that presentation, whatever it is. The negative thought comes in and you tell yourself, BYOF, be your own friend. So if my friend were talking to me and said that they were having this particular negative thought, what would I say to them? Are you going to tell your friend like, yeah, you probably are going to bomb that work presentation and then you'll never get that promotion. You know what? Maybe you shouldn't even try. Like maybe you even need a different job. Maybe you need to just give up. Maybe you're not cut out for this. No, of course not. You're not going to tell your friend those things. If you are telling your friend those things, then it's not a very good friend. But it's important to remember what you would say to a friend, because we tend to be kinder and gentler to our friends than we are to ourselves. So what is it that you would say to a friend? You would probably tell her or him, hey, you know what? Go for it. What's the worst thing that could happen? You make a mistake in the presentation? Well, actually, there's research behind presenters who make a mistake or flub up in some little way, and they're actually better received by their audience. It humanizes them. So what's the worst thing that can happen? Okay. Thank you, Wander Wonders. I'm looking forward to talking to you soon, girl. So think about what you would say to a friend, BYOF, be your own friend. We're kinder and gentler to our friends than we are to ourselves. Liza says, I put it out of my mind entirely with distractions. I think that's a great idea. So one of the things that I tell people to do is, especially with BPD, when you can get really overwhelmed and caught up in emotions, you want to preemptively make a list of distractions that you can use to redirect yourself and distract yourself from what you're thinking. And I use addiction research to back this up. So in the addiction literature, there are plenty of people who say that if you can fight a craving, whatever the addiction, it doesn't even matter. If you can fight a craving for 90 seconds, you can overcome that craving. Now, life may be lived in 90-second increments when you're trying to overcome these things, but it takes what it takes, right? Whatever it takes. So it's a matter of thinking about coming up with a list of distractions, keep it in your phone, whatever, and have that be things that could take you about 90 seconds. So for some people that's, walking to the kitchen very mindfully, getting a glass of water, drinking it very slowly, drinking the whole thing, drinking it very slowly, breathing in between. You can consume 90 seconds with that relatively easily. Other people do push-ups. Other people phone a friend. Other people pray or meditate or write. Eliza, if you have some ideas for distractions, I'd love for you to drop those in, and if it's something you're willing to share that we can all benefit from. So ways to distract yourself. Again, if you're struggling with BPD or intense emotionality, you want to have that pre-existing list ready to go so that when that emotion hits, that negative automatic thought hits, then you can just consult your list of distractions, and extract that thought from your mind. So Wonder says, do laundry. Good. That's a great way to distract. Coloring. I love that. Coloring is like a form of therapy. Other ideas. Other distractions that you guys use that you're willing to share. Walks, that's a good one. So even just stopping and deep breathing, just taking 3, 5, 10 deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. That is a great way to distract yourself. Play with kids, watch some reality TV, all of those kinds of things that you can do. So have that fidget spinners, another good one. Have that list of distractions ready to go. Or if it's things like fidget spinners, have a little bin that you keep somewhere in a conspicuous, easy to locate place, and you get your little fiddler things or toys or whatever out of that, and there you go. You can distract yourself. Dr. Jen on Orange County. Wasn't me. I am not a fan of reality television. I see reality all day, every day in my office, so I don't watch reality television. I want to get lost in something like Scandal or Ozarks or something like that. But that's funny that there was a Dr. Jen there. Okay, other distractions or other ways that you guys dispute your negative thoughts. So we're talking about ways to overcome stinkin thinkin. Wander Wonders, we are looking at ways to overcome stinkin thinking. So we talked early on about where that negative thinking comes from, some different places that comes from, and now we're talking about how to overcome that. So I talked about BYOF, be your own friend. Think about what you would say to a friend who's having that same negative thought, because we're kinder and gentler to our friends. And then I'm asking for people to put in ideas about what they use, your cooking and baking. Awesome. Any number of distractions that you can use. So we're talking about negative thoughts, where they come from, and how to overcome them. So other strategies, as I mentioned, you can find in my course, Overcoming Negative Thoughts, on the psychoeducationacademy.com. Right now, it's $14, money back guarantee, lifetime access. No reason not to do it. If you get in there and you take that course for $14 and you can look at the material and say, I absolutely, honestly learned 0 things, nothing, I'll give you your money back, no question. It is cheap, I agree. You're getting 20 plus years of knowledge and experience helping people overcome negative thoughts, and then overcoming your own negative thoughts. I mean, I've certainly, my own negative thoughts, I've certainly had people in my life who tried to, let's just say, bring me down, knock me down a peg, whatever. And it is not, I decided that I wasn't going to let that impact me. It was hard at the time and I was upset and whatever, but I figured out a way to get in my head and provide evidence to myself for how whatever that person was saying was not true. She was actually a clinical supervisor, which makes it really terrible. But I figured out how to change that thinking and not let that dictate what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, how I'm behaving. So whatever strategies work for you guys, there are different ways to get in your head and kind of change the way that you think about things. So anybody else have stuff? I talked about being your own friend. Another one that I've used is where's the beef? So where's the evidence? You guys remember probably the Wendy's commercial. I'm dating myself, but Wendy's commercial with Clara, this little old lady who was a firecracker, and she would roll up, she would come squealing around the corner and roll up into Wendy's and say, "Where's the beef?" You go back on YouTube and watch the videos. She's hilarious. But that's what you're doing. That's the strategy. Where's the beef? So where's the evidence? If I'm having this negative thought that I'm going to fail miserably at my presentation, where's the evidence that that's actually true? Do I have evidence that that's actually true? First of all, I was either asked to do a presentation or granted the opportunity to do a presentation. So people want to hear what I have to say, presumably. Do I have evidence when I've talked in front of other people or presented things that I failed miserably and no one learned absolutely anything at all? Chances are, if you agreed to the presentation, you don't feel that way. So you're just getting in your head with your anxiety and fear and worry and all of that. So look for the evidence. Where's the beef? Clara Peller is the woman's name. So you can search her Wendy's commercials on YouTube. And she said, "Where's the beef?" Turn that into where's the evidence. So where's the evidence for this fear that I have? Where's the evidence that I'm going to fail miserably and it's just going to be an utter and complete disaster? There's probably not a lot of evidence for that. And so what I tell people is, look, if no one's going to die or lose limb, then go for it. Let the chips fall where they may. Do your best, do your research, practice the presentation if that's what it is, whatever, but just go for it. What do you have to lose, y'all? Life is too short to not go for the damn thing. It's just too short. And you, at the end of your days, you don't want to look back with regret. You want to look back and say, I tried some things. I tried a lot of things. Sometimes I won and sometimes I learned. But at least I did the things. You want to be able to be in the end of days without regret. We very rarely regret trying things. We more likely regret not trying them, not doing them, not going for it, whatever, however you want to put it. So be your own friend. For overcoming negative thoughts, be your own friend and look at the evidence to the contrary. Other strategies that you guys use that you've seen success with in overcoming negative thoughts. I'm going to stick around for about 8 more minutes and head out, 7 minutes now, head out at 6:30. So other strategies that you guys use for overcoming negative thoughts. We talked about be your own friend. Talked about where's the beef, which is looking at the evidence for your belief or thought about yourself or your abilities. Other things that you guys use. Distractions, we talked about as a way to get away from negative thoughts. Make that preemptively make that list of distractions so that you have it there, and you can consult that when the emotions are high or the stinkin thinkin is really thick and you feel like there's no way out of it. If you have that list of pre-established distractions, go and do that. And that's based on the addiction research that if you can fight a craving for 90 seconds, you can beat it. Maybe you're living minute and a half by minute and a half, but this is the process for overcoming that negative thinking and finding a different way to look at things. So other strategies that you guys have used for overcoming negative thinking. Anybody want to chime in and share what they find helpful? Or if there's a particular negative thought that you guys are hit with on a regular basis, it's like a recurring or repeated thought, a record that plays on repeat in your mind, and you're willing to share that, we can try to do some of these strategies live and look at that thought and try to figure out, ways to tackle it, ways to change that thought. Because again, you have to change the negative thought to either a positive thought, which isn't always possible, or at least a neutral thought. So a thought that is neutral is something that's at least not negative and it's conducive to you moving forward, right? So if I'm thinking I'm going to fail this presentation, then I can say, a positive thought would be, I'm prepared, I've studied this up, I've practiced, I'm going to do great. Okay, that's a positive thought. The odds are that I'm going to do well. Even if I screw up a couple times, it's no big deal. As I said, that tends to humanize people to their audiences. So that's a positive thought. To turn it neutral, if you just can't get behind the positive and you're like, I just don't have that much confidence, then you go for a neutral thought, which is, I've researched the presentation, I've studied the material, I've rehearsed the presentation, I'm going to go in and do my best. So you see how I'm confronting, whether it's positive or neutral, I'm confronting myself with the facts. So the facts are that I've studied, I've prepared, I've rehearsed. Those are facts. These are things, objective things that you have done. So then a positive thought is, I'm going to nail it. And then a neutral thought is, I'm going to go do my best, right? Your best is all you can do. So that would be an example of a neutral thought. I'm going to do my best, let the chips fall where they may. So converting a negative thought into either positive or at least neutral, whatever it is that's going to help you move yourself forward. So negative thoughts that you guys struggle with that you want to share, and we can maybe help you dispute that, or ideas about how you dispute negative thoughts. Are there things that you guys are doing that you find are successful in helping you dispute negative thoughts? We talked about be your own friend, so think about what you'd say to a friend. We talked about where's the beef, which is where's the evidence for my thought. We talked about using distractions to just get your mind off of the thought. We talked about taking the negative thought and turning it into a positive thought, so completely flipping it, or at least turning it into a neutral thought. So I'll give it a couple more minutes. If anybody has ideas that they use for overcoming negative thoughts, or if there is a negative thought that you want some help with overcoming or just seeing differently, especially if it's a thought that's recurring, like you tend to get in your head a lot and these things keep coming to mind. So strategies for overcoming negative thoughts that you guys have used, or if anybody has a negative thought they want help with. While I'm waiting for that, I'm going to circle back to what we talked about earlier, which is, where do these negative thoughts come from? Well, we talked about children learn what they live. Our brains are programmed to focus on the negative. It's a self-protective mechanism for us. Physically, it doesn't always serve us well emotionally or mentally, but it is self-protective. It's designed to protect us, constantly scanning the environment for threats. Children learn what they live. So we talked about nature versus nurture. We talked about, let's see, what else did we talk about? Different strategies that we use for overcoming negative thoughts as well. So they come from upbringing, they come from, nature, nurture, they come from a number of different places. Children learn what they live. Our brain is focused more on the negative. It takes 5 positives to outdo 1 negative. Lots of different places that these things come from based on the way our brains are built and then what our life experiences are. And then strategies for overcoming, that has to do with being your own friend, looking at the evidence, distracting yourself, etc. So anybody have a negative thought they want to talk about or get some help with? Anybody have a strategy that they use for overcoming negative thoughts? Chime in. I'm going to hang out for a couple more minutes. While we're waiting on that, I will just remind you guys that you can take $14 and go take my course on overcoming negative thoughts. We walk through 14 different types of negative thoughts, their general antidotes or general sort of ways of dealing with that. And then also I give you 5 strategies for overcoming any negative thought that you have. So that is available for $14, money back guarantee. Lifetime access. Just go to the psychoeducationacademy.com and you'll see that course, Overcoming Negative Thoughts. Lots of other courses on there as well, various different price points. There's a grief course for $6 or $7. There is an belief reset course. There are sleep courses. There are several free courses. So there's a gratitude opportunity. There's an after-action review for therapy. Lots of different free opportunities over at the psychoeducationacademy.com. So, all right, I'm not seeing anybody chime in with any negative thoughts that they want help with. And I also asked if anybody had strategies to share. So I am going to wrap us up for today. If you guys have ideas about what you would like me to talk about in the future, just shoot me a message. I get a lot of messages, so I may not get back to you quickly, but I'd love to hear what you guys would like to see in terms of content for these lives. I'm trying to do these more often. I enjoy the interaction, and of course I enjoy teaching. So again, $14, Overcoming Negative Thoughts, the psychoeducationacademy.com. The course gives you a rundown of all the negative thoughts and then strategic, tactical ways to overcome your stinkin' thinkin'. So thank you guys for hopping on, and I will see you next time.